For your casing seam sample, you're going to make a scrunchie. The two things that you need either a 7 or 9 inch piece of elastic, and then you're going to need a 5 by 22 inch piece of fabric. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to fold in half lengthwise, and then you're going to pin at the very top to secure the seam. A casing is like the top of, if you have a pair of sweatpants, the top of your sweatpants where the elastic sits in, so it's not exposed when if you were to like lift up your shirt or see your waistband. So you're doing the exact same thing, so you're going to need to do this same skill in your skirt or the dress, depending on which project you choose. So after you have it all pinned, you're going to go ahead and go to your sewing machine. After you have your right sides pinned together, you can see the right side versus the wrong side. The right side is the pretty side of the fabric that you would want someone to see, and then the wrong side is the more dull side. You're going to sew a regulation seam towards the very end. Start with your presser foot down, needle down, and then as you approach the pins, you're going to take them out and put them into your pin cushion. You're going to start, use the reverse lever to go backwards to secure the stitch, and we're going to take out our pins as we go. Make sure that you put them into the pin cushion. And you're going to continue sewing. Each pin you need to take out. It's important not to run over the pin because that's how you break the needle. Last one, and then as you approach the end of your rectangle, you're going to remember to reverse. Make sure the needle's all the way up. Lift up your presser foot, and then cut. After you sew your regulation seam on the rectangle of the scrunchie casing, you're going to go ahead and start trimming. So I already did about half of it. You're just going to add that extra. You're going to go about halfway, so again it's like 1/4 inch. And then you're just going to trim it down, because if you were to leave that in there, that would just make it more bulky, and you really don't need this because it's on the inside. It's important not to cut into your seam because then you'll have to start over. After you trimmed your edge, you're going to go ahead and press your scrunchie. It's important to make sure that your iron is on a cotton or a linen setting because you don't want to burn it. And you're just going to move the iron. You don't want to stay in one spot for too long because it can burn your fabric. And it will be nice and pressed, like so. After you've pressed your rectangle, you need to turn it inside out. So this might be a little difficult. Sometimes you can take a pencil and like push it out, or you could just do it by hand. So you want the pretty side or the right side of the fabric to be out because when you wear the scrunchie on your wrist, that's what you want to show. And we will show you what it looks like when we're done. This is what your casing should look like after you turn it inside out. The pretty side is on the outside and the bad side or the dull side is on the inside. You're then going to take your piece of elastic and put a pin into it. You could use a normal pin like this or a safety pin. And then you're going to feed it. You're going to feed it through. The purpose of having the pin in there is so you have something to kind of look for. And it's going to scrunch up because the rectangle piece of fabric is 22 inches and your piece of elastic is only 7 to 9 inches, so it's supposed to look like this actually. And you're just going to keep feeding it through until you get to the end. And once you get to the end, you are going to connect your two ends of elastic together, and we'll show you what that looks like. After you feed it through, you should be holding onto your pin or your safety pin on one end, and then it's important to hold onto this because if you don't, it's just going to slip through. Then you're going to connect the two ends by just putting them together and pinning them, and then you're going to move to your sewing machine and secure the two ends together. When you have the two elastic ends pinned together, you're just going to go to your sewing machine and you're just going to sew a square. So you're going to use pivoting, but this is really small. So as soon as you lower the presser foot, you're going to sew a straight line by start with lowering. Remember to back stitch. It's very, very small. Make sure that your needle's in, and then you could go ahead and take your pin out because it is secure. And then you're going to sew it in a square. It's important that you have the whole scrunchie and the fabric part out of it, because otherwise it's going to get tangled and you won't be able to close it. Pivot, so you have your needle down and then you're going to turn. If you're more comfortable, you can just use your hand wheel because it is a really small space. And then this is the last one, so we need to make sure that we back stitch. With back stitching, you do have to use the presser foot. Then make sure the needle's all the way up. And then you can go ahead and see the square that's securing it together. After you have your elastic sewn together by the square, you're going to take your needle and you're going to just finish off the opening by hand. I already started doing it, so I'm towards the end. And then once everything is secure, you are ready to wear your scrunchie. All done.